So August is National Wellness Month. And so when we think of wellness, what do we think about? We think about recovery, physical well-being. We think about longevity, both the physical side as well as the mental side. And then we also think of like present day mental health. So what I want to talk about is how water is connected to all three of those things. So what does water have to do with physical well-being and recovery? Well, there's water that we drink, and then there's water that's in our body. The more water that we drink, the more water will be in our body, hypothetically. When we think of fascia, which we've talked about a million times, when we think of muscle, when it's dehydrated, it acts like beef jerky. It's not very pliable, it's very tough, very hard to move. That makes us more susceptible to injuries, number one, and it also makes it very hard to recover. Right? If you have sore muscles and they're dehydrated, you can't really stretch them that well, and they really won't have an opportunity to transport nutrients from one place to another if it's all dehydrated and brittle, if that makes sense. So on one end, what we definitely want to think about when it comes to recovery and physical well-being is, do we have enough water in our system? And I think at a very base level, we all want to think about, take your body weight in ounces, divide that by 2, and that's the number of ounces you should drink in water. It may sound very daunting, but it's a good place to start. I do think it's also relative to the amount of activity that you do. If you're someone like a triathlete and you're constantly working out and constantly sweating, you're going to want to drink a lot more than that. If you have a lot of body mass, if you're big, you probably don't want to be drinking half your body weight in ounces. You probably want to drink a little bit less than that. But those are things to consult with a medical professional on. So it sounds daunting. Drink half your body weight in ounces to start. And always if you say, oh my gosh, I did that math and I'm really only consuming, I don't know, a third of my body weight, maybe just increase it by 8 ounces for a whole week every day. And then the next week I go up another 8 ounces a day. And I just try to train myself no different than weight training of trying to up my water intake. Water and longevity. So we just talked about hydration, hypothetically the fact that the more water that we put into our body, the more water will be available to move through our system. And I do think a big conversation in longevity right now is lifting really heavy weights, and we do like that, we do agree with that, but we really have to figure out, how can I move water through my body more efficiently? How can I make sure that all my tissues are properly hydrated? So if I have the water in the system, but I have achy joints, I most likely have scar tissue somewhere that acts as a traffic stop, that acts as something that doesn't allow me to move the water as efficiently as it could. So we can use precise stretches as well as precise exercises in order to create a lengthening and an opening in that highway system, the fascia, in order to move water more efficiently. The more I move it efficiently, the better the tissues glide, the better I can use those muscles, the better I can use those joints. There's also another level of this. If I think about overall health and longevity, a common thing we talk about is heart health, right? Well, what is your heart covered in? Fascia. It's covered in pericardium. And so the healthier that tissue is, the better that your heart's going to function. So that comes back to postural issues, but that also comes back to the quality of the pericardium. Again, the more water I have in my system, the more water I have to move, which, by the way, blood is also mainly made up of water. So again, with precise stretching, precise exercise, work on my posture, I can increase the quality of tissues around important organs like the pericardium for the heart. The last component, mental health. I'm not saying that if you're dehydrated, that you're going to be depressed or anxious. That's not a claim that I'm trying to make at all. But what I will say is your cognitive abilities can be reduced by up to 35% if you're dehydrated. So why not give your brain a much better chance to operate efficiently by making sure that you have enough water in your system? I think that's a big, big component. What we just talked about before was the ability to move water through our system. I would also remind you that we have the deepest layer of fascia in our body is the dura mater. It surrounds our spinal cord as well as our brain. If the dura mater is too tense via stress, via something like whiplash or a concussion, it can actually pull on the brain and constrict it. So we do have things like the general aldoa. We do have things like diaphragmatic breathing that can help us manage the tension in the dura mater, which is then going to help allow a better environment for our brain to operate. Moral of the story, go drink your water.